Hi, it's Ian Schnoor. Welcome back to my video series on the top 10 reasons your balance sheet doesn't balance. Hopefully by now you've had a chance to watch the first couple of videos in this series. Be sure to follow me so that you don't miss any of the upcoming videos, and let me know what you think in the comments below. In this video, I'm going to share the second of my 10 tips on what to look for when a balance sheet doesn't balance. I'm going to talk about a very common problem in models, and that's bad links. Specifically in this video, I want to talk about bad column links. Now, when we talk about columns in a model, we are typically referring to the model's periodicity, which is just a fancy way of saying the time periods or the cadence of the time periods that we're forecasting in the model. On a balance sheet, it is so important to link each cell to the correct column somewhere else in the model. If you don't, your balance sheet definitely will not balance. So let's go into the balance sheet, look at it again, and I will show you exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to show you some examples along with a couple of nice keyboard shortcuts as well. So let me go ahead here and share my screen so that you can see exactly what I am talking about here. Now you should be able to see my screen. Once again, I've got the Henderson manufacturing balance sheet that I've been using in the past couple of videos. And once again, as you can see, this is a 5-year forecast model. And as I roll to the bottom, the balance sheet is balanced. The check row is 0 in each year. So before I start to show you the tip, I want to start with a comment here. And the comment is that the balance sheet should always be the simplest, easiest part of any financial model. And that's because in a good balance sheet, there should be no work on the balance sheet. I'll say it again. There should be no work, no big formulas on a balance sheet. Most of the line items should just be links. That's all I want to see in a good balance sheet is just links. So let's take a look here as I go down the first column. I have a link, a link, a link. Don't worry about where they're linking to, but each cell is just a link all the way down. And then, of course, my total is a sum. I reviewed that in the last video. But the line items themselves are just links. So the question now is, where do we link to? Well, in the case of cash, the very first row, when I press F2, again, F2 edits a cell, I can see that it's linking to a cell on the same sheet, and I'm in the same column. I'm in column K, and I'm linking to a cell in column K. So let's press F2 and roll up. I'm linking, of course, to the bottom of my cash flow statement, and I'm linking to ending cash. Cash on the balance sheet always has to link to ending cash on a cash flow statement. It's working correctly. But my point is, it's linking to the ending cash in the same column. I'm linking it to the ending cash that's in column K, the same period of time. It doesn't matter if my model is vertical like this one. In this model, all of my financial statements are on the same sheet, or I could have a horizontal model where all my financial statements are on 3 different sheets. In either case, I must be linking to the cash row in the same period of time. And we can see the model works. If I didn't, let's pretend someone by accident linked it to the previous year. Linked it by accident to the previous period of time and then copied it over. Control R. Once again, I showed this previously. Control R copies a formula to the right. And now each of them is linking accidentally to the wrong year. Well, as I roll down now to the bottom of my balance sheet, no surprise, but my balance sheet is off every single year. You can see the balance sheet is out of balance. It is so critical to make sure that every single line item is linking to the correct period of time. So let's fix that. I will link it to ending cash in the correct column and copy it over. Same thing with receivables. You can see that I'm linking to a cell in column K. Same thing with inventory. I'm in K and I'm linking to K. If any one of these is linked to the wrong column, if you link it backwards a column or forwards a column, it will not work. The balance sheet will not balance. It's so critical to be in the correct period of time. Why do people make this mistake? I believe that this mistake gets made, and it gets made all the time. I believe people make this mistake because they use their mouse, because they don't keep their hands on the keyboard. I strongly encourage people, and most good modelers that I know keep their hands on the keyboard. But if you're not and you're using your mouse, it's very easy to run into trouble. Let's watch if I was to link this row using my mouse. If I used my mouse, I would press equals on the keyboard, and then I would grab my mouse and start to roll down. Now I'm looking for accounts receivable. So that's going to come from the accounts receivable calculation on a working capital schedule. Let's roll down. As I roll down past my depreciation, past income tax, here's my working capital schedule. And here's my accounts receivable. The problem is when I use my mouse, I don't remember where I came from. Which column was I in? And I don't see that in the formula bar. So I don't remember which year I was in when I started building the formula. And if I'm not being careful, it's very easy to link to an inappropriate column. If I press enter and copy it to the right, you now know that each one of these is linking to the incorrect column. I'm going back a column. And of course, if I do that, the balance sheet will definitely not balance. It's off every year. So again, when people use their mouse to link their financial statements, it leads to a lot of trouble. Conversely, and let's imagine I kept my hand on the keyboard. If I press equals, I will now press page down. If I go page down, page down, page down, I get to the working capital schedule. Now I'll use my arrow keys so that I can gently go one row at a time using my arrow keys, and I will link to the accounts receivable row. But there's no way I've made a mistake because I've kept my hands on the keyboard and I stayed in the same column the entire time. Link it up and copy it over, and away we go. And now I know it's linked correctly. So every single one of these rows must be linking to the correct column, and you can see all of them are linking to column K. This is relevant, by the way, not just on the balance sheet, but also on the cash flow statement. On the cash flow statement, every single line item must be linked to the correct time period, and it's typically in the same column. So net income is linking to net income in the same column on my income statement. And every one of these is linking to a cell in column K all the way down. So extremely important to ensure that all of your line items are linking to a cell in the same year, in the same period of time. The only exception, there's one exception to the rule, and the exception lives on the cash flow statement, and it's right here, the beginning cash row. Beginning cash is always going to be equal to the end of the prior year. So beginning cash in 2022 is going to be equal to the ending cash at the end of 2021. That should be obvious, but it's one exception to the rule where a cell is linking to the previous period of time. And if we do that, that will be working correctly, but it's not linking, of course, in the same period. One little keyboard shortcut before we wrap this up. How can you check and see if you're linking to the correct cell? Well, the first hint is that when I link up receivables, I'm in column K and I am linking to a cell in column K. But if you want to double check just to see what it's linking to, let me show you a nice keyboard shortcut. You can press the F2 key to edit. And when you're in this cell, use your arrow keys, use the shift and your arrow keys to select, very carefully select the cell reference here, and then press F5 and then enter. And what that will do is take me directly to the cell that I link to, but it's a dynamic link. It's a live link, meaning I can use my arrow keys to move the reference around. Let me go back to the balance sheet. If this was accidentally linked to the prior period, now I linked it to J. If I want to double check that, I can carefully select the cell reference, press F5, and then enter. It will show me what I linked to, and I'll say, oops, that's not correct. That is the wrong year. I can now use my arrow key to link to the correct year, press enter, and away we go. My balance sheet is balanced. So let's stop this and end this video here. It is so critical to make sure that most of the lines on a balance sheet are just links. And you want to make sure that in terms of column links, that almost every single row is linking to the same column. If you do that, you have a high chance of ensuring that your balance sheet is working. Come back for my next video when my next video comes out, where I have another video on linking, but this time we'll be dealing with horizontal or row links instead of column links. I'll see you next time.